All right, Bill. Ooh, I love that. All right, really quick. So we gotta put this about.
Okay.
Well, I could probably just clip yours. Hang on. You're my
Is
special
that right
guest.
here?
That is you,
Oh, Lord.
Mr. Bill Sparks.
Lord, God bless you, man. So we got the McKellen there.
Oh yeah. We gotta
What do you
we
think?
got we gotta make sure that's front and center. I think we're in business. Rearrange that back. Brought everything down here, and as soon as you came down to actually start this, the sun went away.
See? Story of my life. I tell you, no respect,
So I've driven through. Where are you from again?
Oh, Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville. I've driven through. I was thinking about that all day. I've driven through Louisville several times, and I love it. I want you to tell me about Louisville because it seems like a cool town.
Actually, Louisville's got a lot of great restaurants. Bardstown Road is full of great bars and restaurants. And uh, it's I mean, it's got a share of crime down in some areas, but overall, it's a, very nice big town, if you will. Good people. I grew up in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, which is on the east side, and that's when you think my dad paid $19,000 for his house. And that's my dad was a banker, and there were people in my neighborhood that a lot of my friends. Her dad worked at General Electric, second shift, Ford Motor Company. It was just if you will, a bouillabaisse of people.
Wait, they had the car industry was there? You said Ford?
Ford,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yep. A couple of neighbors worked at Ford, but back then, but we had one neighbor that was a florist. We had all sorts of neighbors in different occupations, but back then you could afford a home, and I mean it was everything. It was reasonable, and everybody could live together, and everybody had different talents.
So you said your dad paid how much for your first house, his first house?
I believe it was 19,000, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. I'm sorry, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and then we had the basement remodel and got a second bath.
$19,000.
Yeah,
What decade was that?
that was 1962.
Mm. So you said that Ford was there. Detroit obviously, I don't really know what years. I mean, I guess going into the late 90s, when the car companies got into trouble.
Yeah,
Did that happen in Louisville? Was Ford still a big part of the economy then?
I believe it was. I wasn't in Louisville at that time, but I
Yeah,
believe
you're
it was.
you're probably here.
Yeah, I know that when the Ford stock really crashed, I bought plenty of it.
Ford never took the bailout, right? Weren't they one of the famously didn't take money from the government?
That could be correct. I'm not really sure. I don't remember them taking money from the government. I don't remember General Electric taking money from the government, but they could have
I feel like
back
I
then.
remember hearing that, but I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, I don't either, to be honest with you.
So what led you into the restaurant industry?
Well, in 1979, my uncle was a regional manager with Pizza Hut. Before that, he worked for Burger King. My uncle asked me, hey, and I needed to mature up anyway, be honest with you. So my uncle, Ron Weiland was his district manager, and he said, would you be interested in, moving to Tampa and talking to Ron Weiland about being a manager with Pizza Hut? Well, I mean, yeah, put me in. I'll do it. I'll do it.
How old were you?
I was a ripe age of 20, just turned 22.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Ron came to Louisville, and he actually interviewed my best friend and I'd hired us both, believe it or not. And so Russell, my friend, we both got a job, went to Tampa, rented an apartment right off Bayshore Drive on Deacle Avenue for $190, $190 a month above a garage. And, we were there. We were there, I guess, probably 5 or 6 months, and Russell decided he had enough of the restaurant life, so he kind of bailed out and went back to Louisville.
Was he managing also, or was he doing something else?
I'm sorry.
Was he managing also, or was he?
Yeah, he was managing also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were manager trainees. 4 weeks into my program, which was a 6-week program, at that time, they asked me if I would take over the restaurant on Fowler Avenue in Tampa. No reason other than the fact they needed somebody. It wasn't because of my special talents, I can tell you. And so I said, sure. And, what else was I going to say? So I went over there and met my assistant manager, who I had discovered 2 weeks before I went over there was arrested for trying to beat up 2 Tampa policemen. Her name was Roxanne. So that was the kind of deal I was handed. Pretty rough crew. Never done an inventory during the 4 weeks I was in training. I was learning my numbers, how to get them, the whole 9 yards. And same time trying to turn around a restaurant. And, working a good amount of hours. I kept working it, kept taking my numbers in, kept getting yelled at and complained, by Leonard, my area supervisor, which was a hard drinking, cigarette smoking guy. So, I got tired of that after about 3 weeks. So the 4th week, I started inventory, which we did on Wednesday night, worked until I literally saw the sun come up the next morning. I was in there overnight, trying to make sure my numbers were right. And I knew I'd finally nailed them. So I took them in the next day. We had to take our paperwork in to the office on Dale Mabry. Leonard looks over my numbers while I'm there. He goes, well, these look pretty good. I said, you're damn right they look good, Leonard. And I said, you know what? I've had enough of this. I said, I worked all night because I was on my 27th hour, whatever. And I said, I just don't know, man, this is awful. Well, he goes, hold on a minute. Walked out that day with a raise.
Really?
Yeah. So I stood up for myself and it worked out. Got that restaurant turned around. Then they asked me if I would go to Dade City, Florida, which was a orange, a lot of orange fields and orange trees, and people who picked oranges, and we had a very diverse crew there, and a good crew. And I worked there for a while. Then I was in Plant City, Florida, and then suddenly my district manager Ron was promoted to regional manager out in Houston, Texas, and he asked me if I would go to Houston, Texas as a training manager. And he and Leonard came up to me and asked me, and I thought, wow, I must have done all right. They're asking me to go out to Houston, Texas. So got a U-Haul truck, went to Houston, Texas, and that was in 2000, and moved out there during the biggest heat wave they had in years, and with no air conditioning, but had a U-Haul. So I was in Houston, Texas on Chimney Rock Road for about a year and a half.
So wait, so you left Kentucky, you left Louisville to go to Florida to do the first gig. Did you ever move back to Louisville?
I actually I was on vacation and I was getting my hair cut. And this barber, he owned a barber shop. And he said, hey, what do you do? And he was up at Hirschburn, and which is a nice area of town. And I said, oh, I just, I'm in the restaurant business. I'm training manager for Pizza Hut. And he said, would you be interested in ever coming back to Kentucky? He goes, I got a friend that owns 32 Wendy's here in Kentucky. And I said, well, I didn't think about it. And, he said, well, he goes, I could give Jim a call and set you up with an interview. while you're in town. Well, I had to go out and buy a jacket and everything else. I had nothing with me, right? And so it ended up being Jim Patterson, who developed Long John Silver's back in the 60s. He was the founder, one of the founders of Chi-Chi's restaurants in the 70s, and later founded Rally's Hamburgers back in the 80s, 1985.
Wow.
And so, he was a big player. I had no idea who he was. And so I had an interview, and they offered me a salary plus what they called, at that time, they called it some kind of overtime where they paid you half for every hour you worked over 40 hours. And I told them, I said, well, I'm not really interested in something like that because I'm used to working 60 or 70 hours. I'd like to have a straight salary. And I saw the guy who was interviewing me, Dick Barrett, he's one of the partners, and I saw him look at Jim Steele, who was also a big guy up in the organization. And Jim Steele goes, so I ended up getting hired and going to Madisonville, Kentucky, and training there. Then got my restaurant in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. That was the first one.
So how the guy that had started all the guy you were interviewing with that had started Rallies and Chi-Chi's and all that, like how did he do that? Like how do you, is that something that you just have like a lot of money and you're like, hey, I want to have an idea for a restaurant? Is it you go get investors? Like how does that work?
He had a lot of money and he had a great vision. And he was one of the most influential people. I've been very blessed in my life because I've always worked for great people. Even Leonard, who kicked my butt my first couple of years, and Ron, I learned something from them all. And, even Roxanne, who tried to beat up two policemen, it's like Aerosmith says, I've learned from fools and sages. But luckily, I've had a lot of sages in my life that brought me along and helped me develop. And I was with Wendy's, and then they developed Rally's Hamburgers, and I came on and I went to that side of the business with him in a startup. And we were eventually opening, 60, 70 units a year. So it was a very exciting time.
So when you were opening that many units a year, what did that mean for you? Were you out like scouting locations? And
I know I was supporting franchisees, operations. I was not the location guy, but I was overseeing certain areas: Indianapolis, Louisville, Detroit, and Lexington, Kentucky. Those were my major areas there. From there it just grew, and it was very exciting.
So one time you told me that you have known, okay, I don't know the count, but more than one serial killer in your life.
Yeah.
Was that when you were younger? Before you left Kentucky?
It kind of started out that way. Yeah. No, actually 6.
6.
Yeah.
Were they all in the restaurant industry?
Yeah. No, actually not. But God love them, man. Some of them could have been, right? I mean,
it's a tough business.
No, they weren't, and I was childhood friends with one of them, and
really,
yeah.
How okay? So let's talk about the first one. How you said you were childhood friends? Like how, like close? Like did you guys hang out and
we hung out,
play together?
We did some of that. I mean, we didn't hang out every day. I hang out every day, and I can't say they were all serial killers. They were murderers, if you will.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And
but still, though,
some of them, were multiple killers, and I mean, it just kind of wild, actually. One of them worked for me at Pizza Hut, and just didn't come in one day, and so 6 of them.
Wow. So the childhood friend, was it just a crime of passion that when he or was it a killing spree
It
or?
was, yeah, 3 women.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So
And this was after, obviously, this person went in the military and I guess kind of went off the deep end, if you will.
holy cow. So that's a serial killer. I mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean that
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean,
wow.
it's definitely interesting as I kept continued to hear about these people. I was like, good gosh. I mean, is a common denominator me or what?
I mean, 6 is a lot.
Yeah.
6 is a
I can
lot.
I could dare say I could probably go walk around this neighborhood and not find anybody who knows one.
Yeah.
I've done, but yeah, kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is strange.
Yeah, I knew a guy that we didn't hang around together at all, but guy that killed his mom and dad, and which I mean, I'm sure it made future family reunions kind of awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
yeah, probably.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, it was interesting.
So something I'm fascinated about is your perspective. Well, okay, your perspective on current events right now in 2026 versus how things used to be in the 70s and the 80s. And I think especially how things are now versus around COVID. I feel like COVID kind of almost became like it was like a fever pitch, like a fever dream almost of like our culture, and things just went kind of crazy. Like what are your thoughts on where we are right
But
now?
it definitely changed. It definitely changed the work ethic, and I don't know if it did, if the internet did, because more people were stuck at home during that time. There is definitely a lack of, if you will, mingling today that compared to what it used to be years ago. Like, I mean, today I was with my wife and she was showing a house, and it was so refreshing to see these kids outside riding their bicycles. I mean, when I was a kid, you left the home by 8:30 or you're going to be put to work, and you you literally, I mean, you may have stopped in for lunch and made a sandwich, but other than that, I mean, you had to be home by 5:30 because my dear mother had dinner on the table by 6. But there's definitely a breakdown, I believe, in in America with, it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, I'm not a expert on this, but what I see is, you know, it's I almost, it's like I've told my managers and the managers that I work with, and it's almost like even more today. We've got to be more of a parent and help some of these kids. And it's kind of part of our job. And like some kids, not all, and I say kids under 18, they don't know how to walk in and shake hands and look someone in the eye, introduce themselves. These were all things I grew up with. That's what my dad taught me when I was 14. It's like my 3 girls, I lined them up one night and I said, okay, let's shake hands. And I taught them how to look me in the eye, give a firm handshake, and smile and say hi. Some people have that ability, and a lot of people don't have that ability, and have not been taught that. Um, and it seems like a lot more of Americans are very happy being inside their house today than it used to be. And and
Was that you think that's are we talking like since COVID, like COVID changed something, or is this like from the 90s to the 2000s?
I really noticed it more during and after COVID. Now, again, I mean, I'm sure there are people who are smarter in that subject than I am, but you know, that's what I noticed is after COVID, it just really seemed that number one, we weren't getting the applicants we used to get. No restaurant was, and it was just a different culture in America. And one of my passions when I retire is to help kids who need that help, like maybe the DECA program, or churches that may benefit from that and may ask. And I don't know who would ever need that, but some of these kids need to understand that they're enough. And a lot of kids just don't have the confidence they used to have. And not that every kid's got confidence, because they never did. Not every kid had confidence, but at least we were taught to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, those kind of things. And
But what changed that? Because that would be that sounds like is it a culture? Like that would have to be that parents are raising kids differently, or are they were they raising them the same, and then society was changing them when they got to school or something? Like what do you think? I've always been fascinated with what actually changes our culture.
yeah, I mean, it's I think I hate to say, a lot of kids today grew up with one parent, and that mother's working herself to death to feed their kids and put a roof over their head, and there's just not the time. And that's what I see a lot of. Now, again, that's just in my field. They're just not the love of two parents that I was fortunate enough to grow up with. And don't get me wrong, there was plenty of discipline in my family. I mean, nothing abusive or anything like that at all. But you knew when you crossed the line. And I just think, mothers are particularly burdened with trying to raise their children. And I mean, that's what I see. And I could listen, there's people out there that totally probably have a different perspective. And there are a lot of experts out there that could really probably shed more light on it than I can. I'm just looking at it from the people I see come in.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I've seen I've seen a ton of change during my lifetime, and I wonder why. I mean, because
Yeah, I think
I've heard people say, and it kind of is what you're saying. It's when the family unit started to be like degraded, that was sort of the fundamental building block of our society. And when that became, I don't know,
yeah,
less important or less or something, when it was compromised, it sort of has a knock-on effect.
to your point there, I think it was started eroding little by little, sanded down, and then I think COVID really sped it up, if you will. Not the parent part of it, not to whether it's just one parent. I think that's been around for a while, but COVID really, all of a sudden people were more, they didn't go to school, and they were at home taking classes, and they didn't have to see people, didn't have to meet people during the most influential part of their lives. When you were forced to go to school with people, you may not like them all, and some of them may have picked on you. You had a lot of friends. So it was a mix, but at least you had to go to school.
Yeah.
And you had to deal with those people. And today, when COVID hit, that really sped it up. I mean, I think. And, suddenly, oh God, I don't have to go to school. I can be on my tablet and take a class. I don't have to see Joe who's picking on me, or, those kind of things. And, I don't have to deal with people. Oh, I can be in my little room and just take classes. And, IT's gotten so good. And I mean, I know my company's really engaged in IT in many, many different ways. And, a lot of that data is really needed. It's useful data. But there's nothing like people to people contact. And
Oh,
in my business, the data is wonderful, but it's still all about the people.
Yeah.
You still got to support. My job is, I'm over 127 restaurants. My job is to support everyone out there, from the owner, my district managers, my area supervisors, and my managers. And it's really amazing when you follow up with them, or you give them what they need, or you send it to them in the mail, they're just blown away.
Because they're not used to it.
They're not used to that. And me, I'm very big on, if I tell you I'm going to do something, it's going in my planner, and I'm not going to forget it. You're going to get it. If I got to help an owner with a vendor, that vendor is going to hear from me until he gets it done. That's just how I am, because my job is to support those people in the field. Yes, I have to oversee them. At times, I got to give them straight talk. Sometimes I got to give them tough love. But at the end of the day, my job is to help those folks, because they're the ones in the field dealing every day. I'm in the field all the time, but they're the ones who are dealing face to face with their employees, with their customers, and with their vendors, and they need help.
So I think you're totally right. I feel like COVID, God, it changed so much. Like it really changed so much about our society. Because I think we've had these conversations before. You were saying that COVID changed the business model of restaurants,
Yeah.
To a large degree, and it changed our culture, our society. Um, I remember for one of your birthday parties, this was awesome. Kelly had a bunch of us get plan ahead of time. It was a surprise party. You remember, it was at
Oh
the
yeah.
clubhouse.
At my
And it-
60th.
yeah, and it was roasty. We were supposed to roast you, and my roast, my roast was all the different ways you've been kicked off Facebook.
Oh, absolutely. Facebook hates me.
But my question is, because COVID, we've since learned that a lot of the government was involved with probably like the much bigger accounts, but really any accounts, with either banning people that were saying the wrong thing about COVID or the vaccine. Did you have any issues around COVID, like with
No,
Facebook?
most of mine were humor regarding everything from COVID to politics to the whole 9 yards. Because I like to look at an angle. One of my hobbies is, when I get to a place where I can relax at the end of a week, I like to find a humor in every story. And there's humor there everywhere. And I try to find the humor that is just, I think I get that from my dad. But, I like to look at the humor. At times it offended people, never degraded anyone at all, except maybe a politician. But, but people took it seriously. And, I'm not married to a party. I'm a swing voter. And so I really, when I talk about politics, I love to talk, if someone has got an opinion about politics, I just want to listen. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong, or I don't have to agree with you at all. I just like to have a good time with it. And not that I'm an expert on politics. I mean, I'm never going to go on a talk show and, no one's going to value my opinion on, Face a Nation or anything like that. But to me, it was fun. So when people complained about me, Facebook decided they had to kick me off. And so, after a while, it just got to be the point where 30-day suspension, I'm like, I really don't even need this. It's not like I'm being paid or anything like that. But I had a lot of friends, if you will, that I didn't know, but they were suddenly my friends because they agreed or didn't, and they found the humor.
Did you lose friends over any of your posts?
Oh, some of my high school friends would, I never knew I was so popular in high school. All of a sudden, when I got on Facebook, everybody wanted to be my friend. Some of these people I didn't even know. And I was like, man, if I was this popular in high school, I probably could have been a prom king or something. But
well, I'm not really on Facebook. I never like social media has just never made sense to me.
Yeah.
And so, but I used to look at some of your stuff, not much of it. To me, it always seemed like you were really poking fun at tribalism, really. And like I personally feel like that's probably, I don't know, I hesitate to say it's the biggest problem in our country right now, but it's one of like the top 5 problems in our country is just people like what you're saying. People can't think straight because they're married to a party
Yeah.
or to an idea or a tribe.
You know, their parents belong to this party, so I guess I've got to be part of this party. And, you know, um, and to me, that was, I didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up where I had to be part of a party or anything like that. Now, for a long time, I voted Republican, but then, you know, then I started really looking at the issues and trying to figure out who had the best angle. And so
So wait a minute.
I became a swing voter.
But what did you always think like that? Like what caused you? Was that something you were taught by your parents to like, hey,
No,
don't
I don't think so.
like what caused you to think, hey, maybe this guy's full of shit?
Well, you know, one of the things is, you know, now my mom was somewhat of a swing voter, but I also wanted to, you know, I thought to myself, you know, I got to mature up. That's what I didn't want to be an emotional thinker. I wanted to say, okay, this person, you know, I like the way this person thinks. I did my research, and compared to this person on the other side, I like that, and I would continue to study, then I would vote.
Was that common to? Is that a generational thing? Was that common to your friends, or was
No,
that
I don't
just
think
something that
so.
you?
I just think it was something I had. I'm always trying to find a way to mature, if you will.
What?
Now,
Okay.
I'm not mature enough to retire yet, and my dear CEO laughs about that.
But
But
what drive that's what I'm most fascinated about. Where does that, if we're peeling back
yeah,
the layers of the onion, the drive to make yourself better in every way, where does that come from? Do you feel like you were born with that? Was there an example that you
I
saw?
wouldn't say I was born with that. I would say it was an evolution because I realized I was not. I mean, again, it was a maturity thing for me. I like to learn. I mean, you're never going to ask me to take your heart out and give you an artificial heart. Don't get me wrong. But I like to learn, and I didn't want to be an emotional thinker. I think so many Americans are emotional thinkers. It's either this or that. Well, it's not either this or that. It's, I mean, both parties got some screwballs in them in the party.
Yes.
And you've got to decide what screwball you really like the best. And so, you know, that was a gift for me. It was a part of me that I think I needed to learn. And again, I'm not asking anyone to ever agree with me 100% on anything. That's just me. That's just what I like. That's I like to continue to develop, if you will. And
So were you, okay, when you were in high school? Okay, so I was in high school in the '90s, and I feel like, and of course, this is going to depend on where you are. Like I was in Georgia, and so I'm sure if you're in, Wyoming, it's going to be a little bit different versus New York or whatever. But I feel like through public school my whole life, it was really all about conforming. And I can remember in middle school and in high school having one or two teachers that
yeah,
would almost, it's almost like they were trying not to get in trouble, and they would sort of introduce the idea of like, hey, maybe this is kind of bullshit, like what you're being told may not be exactly right, and then they would kind of clam back up. And that made me, that's kind of that ignited my journey of like, wait a minute, what if they're right? So what was your like high school, your education?
yeah.
Was it like conform, you stick to the narrative?
I can't think of one. What I learned in junior high from Sam Mashburn is I like science. Um, and so much so that I bought a paraffin tray and I dissected frogs.
What is a paraffin? Is it the tray that you put the pins in?
Yeah, you put the pins in, and I would literally go buy a jar of a frog, and I would I would dissect the frog, and I found.
With your serial killer buddies?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sick as that sounds, back then that's what we did. Mr. Roberts in biology, and on in college, but I love the sciences. Now that has nothing to do with politics, but I think somehow that made me start thinking about, later on in life, because again, I can't say I was a mature thinker. I think I really learned to be when I took over restaurants, especially in Houston, Texas. I think that helped me. Now I think it progressed into other areas.
Is that because I've never managed anything like that. When you say that, my thought is when you're in charge of something, reality is reality. Like you're faced with the real world. It's you can't really bullshit that. Is that what it was? Just the harsh reality of how to make things work and how to in the real world.
Yeah. I mean, I had to put pieces together. I had to, I had to find people that could help me toward my goal. And I'm talking about team members all the way up to managers. And when I found a team member that really wanted to do well, I was fortunate back then because team members were a lot different then because they were going to school. They cared about what they were doing. They were smart people versus a lot of what we get today. Now, we got some good team members, don't get me wrong. And I don't want to say we don't, because we do. We have some great people. But we had a lot more of those folks back then. So I could teach them how to become a manager. And then I found my real passion was developing people into management. And so that was a lot of fun for me. Not that it's got anything to do with my critical thinking, and not that I'm the critical thinker of the year, but helping other folks get to the next step where they probably didn't think they could get there, and give them the confidence to do that. And again, remind them you're enough. Because so many people today, they don't know they're enough. I mean, I'm talking about going into adulthood and, even people who are 30, and they just don't understand. Some people never get the fact that, hey, man, you got a lot to work with here. And, let's talk about your next steps.
That's kind of okay. I've known you for a long time, and honestly, that's kind of a theme with you. Just knowing you like I do, knowing your relationship with Kelly and your kids and me. That is something that I've always respected you for that, because you intentionally, that really is your gift. You really do try to encourage people. You really do try to give them like, hey, you're enough. You can do this. Because you're right. I mean, so if you grow up in a very nice family and you go from that nice family to a nice college to a nice career, you don't realize how a lot of people grow up. You do.
Right.
And so a lot of people don't realize, like, they might hear you say, well, people don't know they're enough, and they might roll their eyes like, well, but depending on where you come from, that might be the first time they've ever heard it.
And of course that is a hurdle, of course, for some people. Totally understand that. Totally understand it. That's opposite from where I came from. I mean, my dad, God love him. I mean, Little League, I mean, there was no one worse in Little League than me. And I remember the first time I got a hit off a pitcher, I just stood there. And everybody said, no, run, Billy, run. But, my dad breathed into me as well as my mom. Now, my mom was the disciplinarian, not in a bad way, but she would tell you where the bear crapped in the buckwheat, if you needed to hear it. My dad was more the gentle person, And, but, you know, you got good lessons from him as well. Yeah, and I get that not everyone has been that fortunate. And that's where I like to take people and help those folks. And I'd like to help everybody. But that is, you know, a real passion of mine to make, you know, to let people know. I mean, literally, I've got 127 restaurants, and one of my habits is every Sunday night I write 10 letters of congratulations to different teams and different people. Like, great job on the double-digit sales increases last week. Great job here. And, you know, I go in some of my restaurants and these letters are hanging up. And
That's
it's like,
fantastic.
you know, but so many people work hard for a living and they don't understand how much more they can do and how successful they can be. And you look at a guy like me who started in Pizza Hut in 1979, who frankly was dumb as hell, if you will, and, you know, got little or no help, you know, no encouragement. And, but, you know, I was very fortunate that I continued to learn and I continued to grow in this business. I had nothing more than anyone else had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm just fascinated. You're one of the people in my life that I associate with like a killer mindset. Like you really do. I mean, you're the guy that is
Don't say it to
literally
somebody sitting doing 6 killers.
yeah, maybe that might be too
I'm
on
really
the
one of the better ones, okay?
that might be on the nose, but
Yeah, there's nobody buried in my backyard, I promise.
it's a nice new concrete patio you
Don't
got
say
here.
anything. That's Jimmy Hoffa
By
down
the
there.
way. No, but I mean, I've known you for years now, and you. When I think about you, I think about your humor and the way that you encourage people, but also your mindset. You just have this tough mindset where you're just like, well, it's got to get done. It's going to get done. You're going to go out and run 5 miles a day,
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
You're going to take care of your family. You're going to take care of your
yeah.
job responsibilities, and look, I've seen in my lifetime so many examples of people who don't have that, who seem to kind of wander and drift through life. And even if they've come from good families, and you would think logically, okay, so does that make sense? Like where do you think that comes from? Where does that live? And where does it live? And then can it be taught or given?
I think it lives through the hard work that I put in. And, you know, thanks to running, that helped me quite a bit. You know, because I really, you know, you're looking at a guy that never did any sports, never played any sports because I was terrible at it. I was in, I even joined a band, the Jeffersontown band in junior high school, 7th grade. And the 8th grade, um, I was so bad in band that our music director, Lamar Richardson, we were in a parade and he told me, he said, just act like you're blowing in the tuba, but don't blow in it. So I got, you know, so in the 9th grade, I found ROTC. It was a brand new program. And my mom said, you know, you ought to join ROTC. Well, that gave me some discipline. Twice a week, we had to dress in our uniforms. You know how that continued to climb as far as, you know, being respectful. Although I was always a pretty respectful person, but you know, I think that helped somewhat. And you know, but I think that starting to run in 1976 when I saw when I was watching the Olympics and I was watching these runners, and I had a friend and my fraternity brother named Clint Strohmeyer. I was always so amazed to watch him run. And one night I went out and ran a mile around the neighborhood. One night.
Wait, hang on. This is in college?
No, yes, we're in the middle of it.
So you didn't, I was, as much as you've run throughout your whole life, I always assumed that you started running at a young age, but
No,
you didn't?
No. And, you know, within 3 weeks, I was running 3 miles. And frankly, I was losing 10 or 15 pounds. I was overweight. And
Is all that beer.
Well, thank you. And, and so I continued to realize that hard work will get you where you want to be. I continued to run. I was running 8 miles a day, even with Pizza Hut. I was running. I'd come home literally at midnight and go out and run on Bayshore Drive. I'd run 8 miles on Bayshore Drive.
At midnight?
At midnight. And I'd take a shower at 1 o'clock and go to bed. But I never stopped running. And then
hang on, wait a minute. I'm trying to do the math in my head. If you started running at midnight, ran 8 miles, and showered by 1, you were running like a bear was chasing you.
I was running, I was running 6-minute miles, 6.5-minute miles, and then I ran a few half marathons, Kentucky Derby mini, the mini marathon they called it back then, and so Tom Burridge, who I met, he ran for University of Kentucky. And I said, I want to do better in the upcoming half marathon. He said, well, to do that, he goes, you got to run twice a day and run one long run every week. So I started running 6 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd be out in the park running. And then I'd get off work and I'd run 8 o'clock at night.
Man.
And I'd run 8 miles. And then I'd run one long run of 20 miles every Sunday. And believe it or not, the one long run seemed so much nicer than having to run twice a day. It was almost like my day off.
20 miles.
That year, 1981, I came in 13th out of 6,500 runners. I ran a 5:13 average, 5 minutes, 13 second average.
And how long was the race?
It was a half marathon.
So what is that, 13 miles?
I ran at 1:12:12.
So 13 miles, and what was your mile pace?
It was 5 minutes and 13 seconds.
Oh.
I got on the first bus and I thought, boy, this is unbelievable to get on the first bus and head back. I mean, I knew it did well. I had no idea. Then I got a trophy in the mail about a week later saying I came in 13th. Came in third in my age group. Had no idea. For a guy that never had ran, other than physical education, which my teachers in phys ed, I was always the first one in because I hated it. And Coach Andrews would tell me, he goes, son, you ought to be running track. Well, I didn't, again, didn't think about it.
I had a buddy in the military that was like that. He ran so damn fast, but he hated it. And I would always ask him, how do I run faster? I like to run. I just can't run very fast.
Yeah.
And my knees, don't let me. And I would ask him back then, like, how do you do it? He's like, I don't know. I fucking hate to run. So I just want to get it over with.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I mean, that was me.
Yeah.
7th and 8th grade physical education. And, I had no idea.
But okay, but even in the story you just told, and I want to point this out because I was thinking about this recently. The guy you said that ran for the college,
University of Kentucky.
University of Kentucky. So I want to point this out. First of all, it goes right back to that drive because you were like, I want to be better at that. That it's like your mindset, your work ethic, even in your running. But what I wanted to point out, because that's just an example of that, and I think we've lost that in this day and age. You asked someone for help.
Yeah, I did.
And that is so hard to do because if you ask someone for help, you are essentially being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're admitting that you don't have the answers.
Good point.
And you're basically like opening yourself up to them because I mean, they could say whatever they want.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? But and so you're going to them like in humility, saying like, "Hey, I need help with this." I mean, granted, it wasn't like you were, strung out on drugs or something.
You're
That would be
right.
harder to do, but it's the same concept.
Yes.
So was that
That's
normal?
a good point.
Was that normal for you? Like were you taught like, "Hey, you need to ask
No,
people"?
I mean, I mean, I wasn't taught it was bad to ask for help. Don't get me wrong, but I saw Tom in the park, and I mean, yeah, I wasn't keeping up with him, so I don't want you to think I ever was. But you know, it just dawned on me to one day, hey, Tom, how can I run faster than a half marathon? And it was coming up in 3 months, and he let me know.
God, that's just
And
that's just fascinating because I have a very hard time in my life asking for help like that because you and maybe it's this day and age because we have access to so much information,
yeah,
but that doesn't really change anything because you can only get so far on your own. You have to lean into people.
yes, you've got to ask for help. And I mean, thank you for saying that because, you know, that may have been really the first time I had ever asked for help. And, but he made me a better runner. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn about 2 years ago. I said, I don't know if you remember me or not. And he goes, oh, God, yes. He goes, and he said, are you still running? I said, yeah, I'm still running. Now, I'm not fast anymore, but I still go, you know. And he said, what are you running? I said, well, about 10-minute miles, you know. He goes, oh my God. He goes, many of us can't do that today. Well, no, but he became not only a great runner, he was a great runner, but then he went to the bicycle and he was a champion bicycle rider. So, you know, but, you know, I've never been afraid to ask for help when I don't know something. After that, it never, but again, running was my foundation. It
Yeah.
taught me that. And, you know, but you're right. I mean, a lot of people don't like to ask for help, and
Well,
it's okay.
it's terrifying.
It's okay, but people need to understand it's okay. If you don't know something, you don't know something. And that's like I tell managers. It's like we had a supervisor that called me about 3 days ago, and her manager having a hard time with our new food cost program. And I said, I won't say her name. I said, it's okay if they don't know. I said, if you don't know, you don't know. You got to explain it to them. And I said, yeah, once you explain it to them and after a few weeks they got it, then that's a different story. But first you got to give them the information and you got to help them through the process. And it's not one of those programs where you're going to grasp it the first week. I mean, I walked her through the program for an hour on the phone, even though she had been taught how to do it by one of my colleagues. And she goes, I gotta feel stupid. I said, you don't have to feel stupid. It's okay. It doesn't. You're fine. And I said, I'm here. If you have the problem next week, I'm here. I said, I'll walk you through this thing 5 weeks in a row if you need help. And I said, that's what you got to tell that general manager.
Which
In our business, I see so many people get impatient with people. Well, it's okay to get impatient with people if they've been taught and they still don't do it. That's a different story. But if you don't know, you don't know. And that's okay. Well, let us teach you. Let us help you with that. We're all in this together. I mean, I'm with her. Her results are my results. And, let us help that manager. And then, like I told her, I said, you're going to be a pro at this in 3 or 4 weeks.
See, this goes. I don't mean to cut you off, but this goes right back to what I was saying. This is one of the themes when this is like one of the themes of your life, really.
It kind of is.
Even this story you're talking about how you're encouraging her. You're going beyond teaching her about this program or whatever it is. Is it a computer program or?
It is. It's it's a computer program.
But
I mean, we're going to a lot of IT, and I've had to grasp that.
But
we didn't have any of that. We had a calculator and a pencil and a paper when I grew up.
Yeah, but what's happening is you're actually, it feels to me like this is okay. Yes, you're teaching her this thing, but actually, there's a deeper meaning,
absolutely,
to it that you find that's part of you, part of your meaning,
right?
That you can encourage her because you're not just saying here's how you do it. And I'll email you a summary.
Yes.
You're actually encouraging her.
Absolutely. I'm walking through it with her. And I'm there on the phone with her, literally for an hour. And,
But you're trying to encourage her as a person.
I don't want her to feel poorly because she doesn't know. And I want to build her up because at the end of the day, it's how you treat people that makes the difference. They're going to remember that more than anything.
So the reason I
want people to miss me, if you will. And that may sound selfish, but I want to help folks.
No, it's not selfish at all because it's crazy. It's like we're connected because I've been thinking about this question I wanted to ask you, and you just literally led right into it. It's that you find meaning and purpose in doing that.
Absolutely.
How if you were going to give a 20-year-old advice right now on how to find meaning in their life, what would you say?
For a 20-year-old, I would tell them, you don't know all the answers. That's okay. Relax. It's okay. We will continue to teach you what you don't know. And it's okay that you don't know. Take that off your shoulders. If no one has showed you, if no one's walked through it more than once with you, it's okay you don't know. And people need to remember that because sometimes it takes people like Bill Sparks 3 or 4 times, and then all of a sudden they grasp it. I don't want someone to go through the inventory process I went through at Pizza Hut. I don't want them to go through that by themselves. I went through that by myself. I mean, I got it, but it's hard when you don't have someone to help you and support you.
Yeah, 100%.
And it was hard on me. But I knew come hell or high water, I was going to do it. Because again, that's what running taught me. It was like, the more miles you put in, the hard work you put in. It's like Tom Burridge told me, you have to thank me for coming in 13th out of 6,500 runners. You did the work. And that's the thing, is people need to understand, you're not going to know everything. That's okay. Any manager knows they can call me. And, I couldn't call any senior VP of operations and ask them for help when I was growing up. And I don't want them to go through any of that. Not that I'm a big wheel, because I'm not. I'm there to help encourage them. From that cashier to the cook to the manager. And,
well, that's leadership. That
to me is leadership.
That is leadership. Because I've seen in my lifetime, I've seen excellent leadership and I've seen poor leadership. So how do you define your leadership style?
Well,
and what makes a good leader?
Let me tell you, in the beginning it was poor. I will say that. I think it was poor. And I think it's evolved over the years. I think, again, my leadership is, and I hope anybody who is in, I tell people, no one works for me, they work with me. And I want people to know that. We're all in this together, like I said before, but I want people to know, hey, I got Bill's number. I can give him a call. They've all got my number.
Where did you learn that style of leadership?
I think just from reading books. I think that, you know, practice, 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 experience. I believe that's where I learned.
Is it something that did you just see that, wow, when I handle things like this, everything goes better?
Suddenly, people stay on the team. They don't quit out of frustration. And, longevity from a team member all the way up to a director, to a VP, it helps that bottom line. And that's what I looked at. How can okay, we're all in this business to make a bottom line, to make a respectable bottom line, not to squeeze costs so much that people are getting bad food or they're not getting a great experience when they walk in the door. That we've squeezed labor too tightly, but we all need to make a respectable bottom line. My owners need to make a respectable bottom line. And our company restaurants, my CEOs expected them to make a respectable bottom line.
So okay, so talk. I want your advice on something, because the story you told when you were a manager trainee at Pizza Hut when you were young, that stuck with you because you were up all night doing the inventory.
Yeah.
And you were obviously stressed out. It was obviously a significant incident because you remember it,
Right.
and it sticks out. It probably feels like it was yesterday. And you said you stood up for yourself the next day. What advice would you give someone who is like living that bad experience right now?
I would say, here's what I would say, and I said this today to someone, as a matter of fact, who is in a different industry, but this person stood up for themselves. And when I stood up for myself, I didn't know if I was going to be getting in a car and heading back to Louisville. I had no idea. All I know is, hey, I've had no support, but I've been yelled at enough, which was the way they did it back in the day, if you will. That's what I think, you got to respectfully say, hey, I'm doing the best I can do here. If there's something else I need to be doing, I need your guidance. Tell me how you would do it. And if you're a good director, area supervisor, in my position as a senior VP, you know how to do it. Not that you got all the answers, but if you don't have all the answers, you know people who could give them to you.
Right, but where did you learn to communicate like that? Because is that a personality thing? Because people get emotional. Like if you're living that bad experience right now, and I've seen countless examples of this, then it's gonna bring in all kinds of emotions from other things in your life,
Right.
and it's gonna be easy to just sort of like deal with it for a long time and then explode.
Yeah.
Where did you learn? Because you communicated very well in that situation. Like the next day, you gave him your numbers. He's like, "This looks good." And he's like, "Well, you're damn right, it looks good.
Yeah.
But I need this, this, and this." That's
Right.
effective communication. Where did you?
I never told him I needed anything because I wasn't that bright, if you will.
So that's something that you learned.
But I let him, yes.
Okay.
But I let him know, hey man, I made it. And I kind of, he kind of got the undertone that I made it without you, because he couldn't do it. He didn't know how to do an inventory.
Really?
No, he didn't have a clue. Good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, I've learned from fools and sages. But yeah, I'm not saying, but he was in the middle. But he pushed me hard enough to know that I would figure it out. And, I don't want people to, and my dad was an encourager too. My dad, when he retired and when he passed away, I can't tell you how many people reached out to me and said, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for your dad. And I mean, everybody knew my dad.
Do you think that, so okay, so then you would have grown up, your dad probably did that for you, and you would have maybe seen him do that in general. Do you think, because I want to get back to the idea of how do you find meaning in life? Or how do you find, maybe it's purpose first, and then that gives you meaning. But how do you find that purpose?
Yeah. Well, let me just say too that I was fortunate enough to work, you know, for the Kentucky Colonels basketball team. I didn't mention that when I was in high school. 4 years in high school, I was a press boy, if you will. And I was around a lot of people. Back then, it wasn't exactly female, it was mostly men, if you will, because that was the way it was back in the 70s. But I was a press boy, and I got paid two $7.50 tickets, which were the highest price tickets you could have back then. It's not like today where tickets are $100 a game.
You got paid in tickets?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, we know there was no money, but I was fortunate to be around players and around Dave Vance, who, if you screwed up, he'd tell you. I mean, but he was a nice guy. Not that you screwed up often, but that may have been where it came from. But if I look at my life as far as being an encourager, which my dear wife reminded me years ago that I was, I'm blessed to have her because she reminded me I helped her. I mean, she grew up with, 9 kids and a good family, but, she never felt like, she was enough, if you will. And because I was like, I mean, my wife, like we were saying at dinner, I mean, you know, my wife could have been an open heart surgeon. I mean, I cook chicken, right? I've always tried to help other folks. It was an evolution, and I look at the dogs we've adopted. And it's a small part, but we got one that has 3 working legs. We adopted that dog, and I said, that's who we are. We give people chances. We give dogs chances. We got our greyhound. God love him. From an adoption agency. He was abused on the track.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. And, we had a golden retriever we adopted from the pound. And, we've always been, when you look at animals, we've always been those people, my dear wife and my God, she's a great encourager. We've always been that kind of person, that kind of couple.
But okay, so I guess what my question is, at what point or what caused you to understand so clearly how the world works in that sense? Does that make sense? Because the reason
I have no idea how the world works, by the way.
but you understand how not everyone comes from the same like starting point. Like some people have really rough backgrounds and childhoods. They have things that are against them. They whatever. Like you and your wife both have like a deep understanding and compassion about that. Is that something that you knew? Did you see that as a kid? Did you what?
I mean, I was always a nice kid. Don't get me wrong. I mean, people remember me in my class as friendly. I would say I was always an encourager, but I never, made fun of someone who was this or that. To me, it was, it was troublesome. I never made fun of anybody. You know what I mean? I didn't feel good about that. Where some other kids who were not quite as mature, well, I wasn't mature either, but while they make fun of somebody, I could not do that. And I mean, that's a very low level, but
no, it's not at all. That's huge. That's a character.
It's I mean, my mom would have probably slapped me out of the chair if I made fun of anybody who was of a different race, had a handicap or this or that or the other. I'm not sure that that's where that came from as a seed, but it grew over the years. And I saw these folks that needed a hand up, if you will. And then when I gave them a hand up, when I was a owner with Rally's Hamburgers, or when I was a district manager or area supervisor, and I gave them the opportunity they took off and blossomed. And I was like, wow. It's like I had a 19-year-old kid, if you will. He was not obviously a young adult, but at First Avenue, and I had to let the general manager go. And that person said, name was Jerry. He said, if you give me a chance, I'll show you what I can do. And I'd never had a 19-year-old manager. So he and I sat down and talked for about 20 minutes. I said, Jerry, let's see what you got. He did it. You know,
How long had he worked for you at that point?
oh, until we sold, that was it, yeah.
But before that, like did you know him before that?
Oh yeah. He was a grill person. He worked the grill. And I mean, I knew him. I saw him when I'd come in, talk to him, but never saw him as that person. He became an assistant manager for us at 18 and did a good job. But I gave him the opportunity and I was like, wow. I mean, we talked a lot on the phone. I went to see him, inventory, helped him with this and that and the other, but he blossomed and did a great
Well,
job.
you build people. I think that's probably the best way to say it.
Well, that's what I try to do. I want to help people. And this business is hard. The restaurant business is hard. I mean, it's very difficult, but it also was a very lucrative profession as well. And it pays pretty darn well. And so if I can help someone go to the next level, that's what I'm all about. I mean, I think it really dawned on me when I went to Houston, Texas, and started working with some of these team members who showed a desire. Suddenly they became assistant managers for me, and I was the training manager. And Michelle was one of them. And that kind of showed me that, hey, we can help. I can help some of these folks.
That's amazing. You said take it to the next level. What is your what is your advice for someone like if somebody because I ask myself this question all the time. Like what would improve my life? What would take my either my professional life or my personal life to the next level? What is your advice for that? Like how do you do that? I'm assuming it's baby steps. It's like
It's definitely baby steps. I rank people, and I ask my managers, it's the old Jack Welch program that Jack Welch was the CEO of General Electric during their heyday. He has since passed away, but his book was, wow, unbelievable. But he ranked people in the top 15, middle 70, and the bottom 15. The top 15%, and I took this and blew it up in our business. The top 15% are people who care about the business, who are there every day, do a great job, who care about the business, take care of the customers. And those are folks, teach them something new every day. Little bitty things, little bitty points. And develop those folks. The middle 70, you've got to have those people. They're the people who come in, they care about what they're doing, but they got families. They can only work a certain amount of hours. But they care about your business. But and they're going to do a great job when they're there. But they got to get home and do other things. Perfectly fine. You got to have those folks. Then you got the bottom 15. Those are people you have to, let them know where they are. Give them some straight talk. Hey, look, man, you got, here's what I'm seeing. You're late 2 or 3 times a week. This works out for you, but this doesn't. When you're closing a restaurant, it's not clean at night. What do you want to do here? And so the top 15, middle 70, and the bottom 15. When I read that in Jack Welch's book, I was like, wow, that's golden. That's a golden rule. And, but the top 15 who care what they're doing and are kind of stuck, if you will, as a cashier or a cook, but they show so much ability, those are the folks you've got to help and breathe into. And again, a middle 70, some of those folks work out great too. But, you know, they may not have been given a chance. But really, the top 15 is what I look at as far as, you know, wow, okay, can we put that person as an opening team member to help us open up new restaurants? And it's like, wow, you know, and that, how fun would that be? And some of our directors have given those people up to help us open a restaurant for 2 weeks. They come back much stronger because they've got, you know, they've trained a whole crew how to be a cashier or a cook, or, you know, suddenly they're blossoming because they've been able to do that. Or, you know, they've been shown how to, let me show you how to do, let me show you how to make a chicken order. You know, let me show you what we're looking for here.
Leadership is so important. I mean, it really is. That just the way, no matter what it is, the leadership is key.
It's key.
And I love what you're describing, the way that you lead. What is your advice to someone who finds himself in that position?
In the leadership position?
Yeah. What's your advice to leaders?
I mean, main thing for them is so many managers I see today, they're frustrated. There's no reason to be frustrated. They're frustrated because the bottom 15, they don't show up on time. They don't do this, or they don't come in at all. We give them second chances. And, you know, there's a great opportunity. You know, if someone doesn't show up for a shift, okay, let's sit down and talk to them for a minute, and let's help them make a decision here. You know, they either need to have straight talk with them and weed them out or get them into the top 15% or the top 70%. And if you can't get them there, you got to find someone who can. And I tell people, I advise my managers, you hire 1 or 2 people a week, regardless if you need them or not. Because the more people on staff, the more pressure it puts on the bottom 15. Either, hey, I'm not getting the hours I used to get. Well, you're not, because I've talked to you about this and that and the other. And, you know, I haven't seen the results. And we were made to do that. We were taught to do that at Wendy's under Jim Patterson. And I saw it work for the first time when I started hiring 1 or 2 people a week. And all of a sudden people started coming to me in the bottom 15 and say, well, how come I'm not getting these hours? Well, you and I've talked about the fact you're late all the time, or you don't show up. Well, I can, yeah, well, I'll start showing up on time. I said, well, I got to see it.
It's like a sports team.
Yeah. It's
someone's competing for your position.
Yeah, that's right. All of a sudden you've only got a certain amount of hours you can award people because of the sales you're doing. So when you've got 400 hours of spread among 32 people versus 30, then all of a sudden you still take care of the top 15 and the middle 70, but the bottom 15, they're the ones that lose out on the hours. And all of a sudden they get better or they go somewhere else.
What do you when you meet with someone in the bottom 15, how do you handle that? What is your advice to them to start moving up that scale?
When I was a general manager, I would sit down with them and I would tell them, this is kind of where we are. And it was really amazing when I started hiring 1 or 2 people a week. All of a sudden, everybody's performance got a little bit better. But, you know, those that didn't and came to me and said, how come I'm getting 20 hours a week versus the 30 I used to get? I'd say, Sam, how many times we talked about this? I mean, this shouldn't be anything new for you. I mean, I can't depend on you, and I got to find somebody I can depend on. Now, if you show me you could do the job, then hey, you'll get your hours back. But also hiring 1 or 2 people a week also helps build top line sales, which helps the bottom line. And, regardless of what business you're in, you got to have a reasonable profit. And, if you start building that top line sales, if you go from $30,000 a week in sales to 40,000, well, then all of a sudden that bottom line, there's more trickling down to that bottom line.
So how does that work? If you're managing a restaurant and you're hiring people 1 or 2 a week, like you said, and that increases top line sales, is that because in general your employees are giving better service?
Yep.
The customer experience is better.
You're building a stronger staff, and you're building a staff that cares, and your staff is stronger, which means your sales are going to be stronger.
Because people feel that. The customers feel that.
Absolutely. You're delivering dependable consistency. And what I look at from the Wendy's days and from the Rally's days, number one is in any business, you got to serve a top quality product. Whether you're in the mattress business or in the food business, quality product is number one. You've got to meet or exceed the customer's expectation with dependable consistency. Meaning, if I go to Wendy's and I get great food the first time, and I go the second time and it's bad, there's a great chance we're not going to go back the third. So, customers are very picky, which they should be, because especially in today's age when the economy is shaky, they don't have a lot of money to spend. So I can spend my money here, or I can go to Steak and Shake and get a good meal.
Yeah, I can attest to that. There's this I won't name it, but there's sort of like a mom and pop. I won't even say that, because the owners own a couple of other restaurants in the area that are actually pretty successful, but it's close to my house. And a few years ago, when my work schedule was different and I was going in a little bit later in the morning, if I was behind with like my second job, if I was behind, like I wasn't able to fix breakfast before I left for work, I would stop by. It was on my way. I would stop by, and it was a breakfast place.
Yep.
And they had a plate that it was like scrambled eggs, grits, because I love grits, and maybe like sausage or something like that. It was like a plate. And I swear, one day it would be $5 or $6. And then like the next week I would go order the same thing, and it was like $9. And I thought, that's weird, but okay. And then sometimes it'd be $5 again. And then one time it was almost $20. $20. And I was like, are you sure that's right? Like that, it's normally like $5.
You come here every day.
Because I would go there about once a week, and the person, I don't know what was going on. She didn't want to hear it, so I gave her my money, and I never went. That's been years ago. I've never gone back.
Because what happens there with the mom and pops, like it does with us, suddenly we have success. Then all of a sudden, managers or directors or area supervisors, well, I'll take this day off. I mean, the restaurant business is 7 days a week. And I mean, not that anyone's expecting to work 7 days a week, but you got to build a team that can deliver 7 days a week. And if you get something, you get a plate or you get a combo meal, and suddenly it was like, boy, it was good the other day, but man, this is horrible. Okay, you may give them one more chance. Might. 40% of our customers will not give us a third chance.
Yeah.
And we know that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, it's like if you come to one of our restaurants and you get soggy wedges or you get chicken that's old, well, golly, man, I remember coming here and, wow, I came here last week, and last 2 weeks has been great. What's going on here? Where's the void?
Yep.
But the void is you can't get comfortable in the restaurant business. You can't get comfortable in a mattress business. You can't get comfortable in the carpet business. whatever, a retail business. It was like I was, met a guy today, Alfonso, who is a manager at Walmart. He went there at 3 o'clock in the morning. He got a replacement so he could come over and meet with my wife and I because she was showing him this house. And he went back to work at Walmart. And he said, which is very true, I'm working the first 6 months really hard, so I don't have to spend the next 6 years babysitting people. And,
Oh.
he's building a team. And, it's the same with us. You got to be on top of your business every day. I mean, my dear wife will tell you, and God love her, she supported me all through the years, but I literally handle something every day of the week. And, but that's my passion. I got to help folks.
How do you process that? Like, is that discouraging to you? Do you, I mean, how do you find the balance, or how do you, what is your mindset surrounding that?
No, it doesn't upset me at all. It doesn't bother me. If someone calls me and I'm off on Thursday or Sunday, I kind of expect it. And I make calls every day of the week. I talk to somebody every day of the week. Sometimes I'm not always in the restaurants. I may not be at this restaurant on Thursday or these restaurants or a city like Fort Wayne. I may not be there, but I got a very talented group of directors who are there. And
So you've built that team.
well, I built a team, but I will say, when we acquired these markets, they were part of the team, and so I give them the total credit. I didn't put any of these folks in place. Sometimes, but they know I'm there for support. They know, hey, I can call Bill. I sometimes you have to talk people off the ledge. It happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it just happens. I mean, you're dealing with 15 restaurants or 4 restaurants or 2 restaurants or whatever, and they know if they call me and I don't answer immediately, I'm probably on a call with somebody else, but they know I'm calling them back. And I think that's important for anybody in the management position.
No, it makes sense. I mean, that's how you lead. And it's interesting because I wonder, with the restaurant industry or retail, like you said, it is so results driven that it forces you into a reality check every day.
Every day. And it's, and don't get me wrong, there are times that my wife and I will go out for dinner, like tonight, and I'll leave my phone in the car. I don't get on my phone when I'm with my wife. You know what I mean? She is very important to me. My family is very important to me. My friends are important to me. So if I'm at La Paria having a good meal, I don't have my phone with me. And sometimes it's really funny because people, you didn't bring your phone? No, I didn't bring my phone. Because if I brought my phone, that means I'm going to answer in the middle of dinner.
Yeah.
Now, I also am smart enough to know that if someone is on the ledge or needs help, okay, I may have to bring the phone in, but I'm not one of those people who sit at the table and look at my phone instead of talking to my dear wife or my buddies or my friends.
Yeah.
That's important time for me.
That scares me. I mean, I grew up, I was in high school in the 90s. We cell phones were just starting to be a thing. I remember one of my friends, not a close friend, but they had a like a one. Remember the car phones? I guess
God,
it was
the
like
bag phones.
Yeah, the bag phone.
Yeah.
But when I was young, I didn't have social media. I didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
And what I see today is kind of terrifying.
People are glued to that phone.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like, hey, you know what? If I don't call you back in an hour, I know you're going to live, right?
Yeah.
So if I take my dear wife out for a good meal at Bone Steakhouse, or if I'm meeting people, La Paria and my buddies, our friends, that time is precious to me too. Now when I get back in the car, yeah, I'm going to check the phone. And I may call somebody on the way home. A lot of times I got no calls. But I want them to know, hey, I'm here for you. And I think that's important. I think they appreciate that. And I think they also know if they have a problem, I'm not going to be yelling at them about why they couldn't solve it. I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to do that. But I know that sounds a little harsh, but that's the way it was back in the 70s and 80s
Oh,
when I was in the business.
I can
It was a
imagine.
tough business.
No, I can
And
imagine.
but I want to make sure my private time is my private time and my business time is my business time. I mean, even when I'm on vacation, I don't ever put a voice message on saying I'm on vacation. Now, last year was the first time I'd ever done it because I was on a cruise with my wife. I'd never done that before, never in the past.
I bet that felt weird.
But I went ahead and did that because, number one, I was in the Mediterranean, and you know, I'm not going to answer a call then. But everybody knew I'd be gone.
Yeah.
So, but again, people need that support, and a lot of folks, they go somewhere for a couple of days and they got a voicemail message say, "I'll be gone until this." You know what? That's okay. You know what? That's their thing, and they got people, but supervisors that can handle the problems. But for the most part, I may not call you when I'm on vacation, like in Destin, Florida. I may not call you till later on that day, but I'm gonna give you a call. And it's funny. I know you're on vacation. I hate to bother you. You're not a bother. What do we need? What do you need? And what can I help you with? And you know, people just need to know they have someone to back them up.
A lot of, yeah, I mean, you're right. You're exactly right. A lot of people don't have that, but that's very much what they need. What do you think? Like, God, I feel like this day and age, I don't know if it's getting better or worse. Maybe worse, but I feel like our culture and politics, I guess, play into it. It's just so divisive, and I feel like we're becoming
Oh,
as a society more tribal. Do you feel like we're more tribal than ever?
absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
I mean, what is that? Why do we need to be married to a political party or to a politician? Why is that?
I think people need to know. I think people need to feel belonged to something. They belong to something. Um, and to me, to belong to a party is, well, there are a lot of things. You need a life if you belong to a party. That's just me. It's pretty elementary. To belong to your family, you're darn right. To belong to your friends, you're darn right. But to belong to a political party that really could care less about you as a human, I don't even understand that.
That's exactly my point, because so many people, they feel like these politicians, that they believe them. And maybe that's just me. I'm cynical,
No, I don't think
I
you're
mean,
wrong.
if a politician is out campaigning and I'm seeing them on social media or the news, or hell, if I go and see it in person, I pretty much don't believe them. I'm wondering,
Yeah,
how, like, I'm assuming they're lying. I'm just wondering how much they're lying. Is that because we don't did COVID break our communities, and now people find community in politics? Has this been going on way before that?
I don't know, but as we all know, Joe Biden didn't know who they were. Donald Trump doesn't know who they are. nobody knows really any of these individuals
Exactly. They don't.
unless they're big contributors, you know,
Exactly.
and you know, they don't care anything about you and what you think.
They really
But
don't.
if you can pass that word for them on social media, well, that's great. But what I find is a lot of people, I'm not saying everybody by any means, they don't care enough to research. They watch this channel only because it makes them feel good. Or they watch this channel because it makes them feel good.
It confirms what they already believe.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I want to see, I'm horrible because I listen to all of them. And then I start reading. If there's a topic, there's a subject matter there that's worth researching. And I'm trying to find really the truth. I don't care what Fox News says, CNN, CNBC. I watch them all because I want to get some kind of perspective from everybody. But boy, there are some people who just watch CNN, just watch CNBC, just watch Fox News because it makes them feel comfortable. And a thinking person, someone who's not an emotional thinker, wants to know the real truth, if you will.
But it's so confusing. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but it's just it's so confusing, and I can't help but think that it's on purpose. I feel like they just they blast as much information out there. They muddle it. Because if you think about it, think about the last 5 years or 6 or 7 years. How many things you got politicians talking openly about aliens like it's no big deal. You
Right.
have COVID, which was like, regardless of how you feel about it, it was a moment in time where the government took more control of the people than our government probably ever has.
Absolutely.
That's significant. I mean, it doesn't have to be a political issue. It should be, it doesn't, if you're left, if you're right, if you're center, it should be like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
how much are we really willing to let the government control us?
Right. And the government was feeding people. They were sending money out.
Yes.
Unbelievably. I mean, during COVID, we had no dining room. Our dining rooms obviously were closed.
Yep.
No carry out. But our drive-throughs were crazy.
Yep.
And I mean, people getting the money from the government, and they're like, let's go out and get a chicken dinner.
Yeah. And now we have inflation. Now
rightfully so.
Yeah.
But our drive-throughs were nuts.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were setting record sales weeks.
Yeah.
During COVID. I was having to steer people through that process, through the COVID deal. And it was a very, very fascinating time, if you will. I'd never been through anything like that.
Nope, none of us.
But I had people that I had to help, and they've reported to me, and I had to protect, if you will. I didn't want my folks getting COVID because they went out and we all wore masks, but there's a question: did that work? Did the mask work? Did the N95 work? I don't think anybody's really got the answer to that. Although if you watch one channel, it didn't work. You watch another one, it did work. And if you watch this one, it may work.
Well, and then now, I mean, like, and I have not read through them, but I saw some of the headlines that they published Anthony Fauci's diary, and it's like, well, so what what is that? What insight would that give us? They're making they're playing politics with it, which they're going to. But like, I'm curious, if you read through it, like what would you learn? Like wait a minute, they knew what? They're telling us one thing, but they knew like the one thing I did see, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion, and I don't remember. I don't remember who reported this, so I trust them. Actually, it was Breaking Points. I do remember that. And basically, they had pulled an excerpt out of his diary that very much suggested that he knew early on that it had not come, that COVID had come from a lab. It had not come from the wet market, but they wanted to make it have come from the wet market.
Yeah, and he even questioned the wet market. Even Fauci questioned that.
Yeah,
and people on this side would say, why are we going back and revisiting this? Well, you know, we also went back and revisited January 6th.
Yeah.
So, there's a learning here, and not that I'm for one or the other. I think personally, I think Fauci did the best. Now, this is just my opinion, and I could be totally out here, but he led the country with what he knew and the science that he understood. And, whether the N95 mask worked, whether it didn't work, we're all trying to learn. But, COVID's going to come around again at some point.
Oh,
Not COVID,
100%.
but it could be, virus number 62107. Who knows?
They're openly saying that is going to happen again.
But we need to know,
Yeah.
okay, what do we learn from COVID that can help us for the next virus?
Yes.
And it's the same with the January 6th people.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. That's what I'm interested in, because we are so divided as a country.
Yeah.
That if you that people just immediately go to one side or the other. But I feel like there's an opportunity to look back and like read through these things, like his diary and whatever else we could find, and say, okay, let's just go back in time. Here's what he was thinking. But yet here's what the government was telling us. And if there's a huge divergence in that,
Yeah.
then we need to reconsider how much we trust the government.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not a Republican or a Democrat issue. It's like we are allegedly a free people,
Yeah.
and if we're being controlled and fed bullshit,
Right.
if that was happening, does that make sense? Like, I feel like there's an opportunity to, because you're right, it's going to happen again, or something else is going to happen.
And we have to remember it happened under Trump.
Yes.
Which people don't want. He was talking about, well, why can't we just drink bleach? Okay. Okay. Well, Fauci had to answer that question. Like, and you saw his expression there, but he was doing, as a scientist, he was doing the best he could do to try to lead everyone through that process.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
and that was a tough deal.
Yeah, I think people do forget that they because it was Trump up in, I'm trying to think how that worked. He was in office until what, January of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, that 2021 or whatever.
No, 2021.
Yeah.
So he was that entire first year, because it was all of 2020 pretty much, early 2020. Because and you know what? Actually, it's funny you say that, because I can remember I was curious about this a couple of years ago, and I looked. They might have buried it by now, but I looked it up, and the prominent Democrat figures when Trump was still in office, but because he was the one that pushed the vaccine, because he gave them all the immunity.
Yeah.
Like Nancy Pelosi, Biden, and I forget who else it was, but it was the prominent like Democrat establishment. They were openly saying, like, I don't trust this. I don't trust Trump. I don't trust the government. This is going too fast. They were open about that. But then, of course, once Biden got into office and the money started flowing, and suddenly they were like, oh, God, this is so lucrative. They were like, maybe you should take that shot. Forget about what I said last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
who knows? And then, of course, you had, like my youngest daughter, you start having seizures later on in life. I mean, there's no history of seizures at all in my family. And people now there are millions of Americans having seizures.
yes.
Now, I don't know I'm not a scientist. I'm not saying Fauci was wrong, but what caused those seizures?
They're coming out with a test, I've heard, that it's all about that spike protein. And obviously I'm not a
Right.
doctor either, but
No.
I've heard there's a test they're coming out with that will be able to determine if that spike protein, either from COVID or the vaccine, because I think either way you're kind of fucked. If you had COVID, which we all did, or if you took the shot, then it can test whether it's still active and causing problems. Because you're right, a lot of issues happened after COVID, after the
everybody
vaccine.
started getting those shots.
Yes.
And, and maybe the shot was good for some, and maybe for a minority of Americans, it was not good. Again, I don't have that education to say that. I love the sciences, but I'm not like Fauci. You know what I mean? I'm not like those scientists that do that every day.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. I've tried reading the studies and stuff, and it's like you need a damn advanced college degree just to get what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Just the basics. But that's, I think that's what concerns me the most is like politics, and I'm afraid it's on purpose. Politics is making it where people on both sides get so hysterical that they don't want to know the truth.
No.
They just want to know what their side says, and they're okay with that.
I think that's right.
But that's not good.
No, that's not
not
right.
good.
That's not the America I grew up in. People listen to one side or the other, and one news channel or the other, and all of a sudden, that politician, that president, is their boyfriend. And it's like, I got no boyfriend here. I don't have a boyfriend in politics.
Yeah.
I may have voted for this person or this person, and frankly, I can hear my mom now saying, if you don't vote, you can't bitch. I didn't vote the last 2 elections. I could not vote for Trump or Biden. And, I'll say that right here. I voted for Trump in 2016, and I had enough of him by the time he left office. Sorry, don't get me fired, Trump. But, but I thought Biden, God bless these folks, but, if you're over 68 years old, like my wife said, you shouldn't be running for president of the United States, because you got a lot to deal with. Now I'm 70 years old, and I still got a lot of game.
I'd vote for you.
But president of the United States isn't one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you see it. I mean, you see they go in looking a certain way, and 4 years later or 8 years later, they're like a shell of a person. Yeah, look at Obama. Like the difference when he came out. He goes in, I forget what year he comes out. It's like, wow.
But but I tell you, he's still a pretty man.
Wow, yeah. But I mean, it's a meat grinder.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. I mean, there's a lot of sleepless nights. They got a lot to consider and worry about, and making sure we're protected. And I mean, I loved studying politics, but I know that's a young man's game or a young woman's game.
How do we No, yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, unfortunately, we haven't had a female in that position. But I will say this, and I learned this from my director of training. I said, a lady, a female in management for us does so much better than a male sometimes. Now, I'm not saying all the time, okay? And she said, well, yeah. She goes, but Bill, you have to remember, they've had a family to manage. They've had this going on. They've had this going on. And they've had to learn to juggle a lot of balls.
Yeah.
I said, her name's Christy. I said, I never thought of that. But I will say this. My wife will tell you, I'm a real champion of female leadership. Because, and don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of great male directors that do a wonderful job. So I'm not shading them at all. The females seem to really grasp how to handle, especially store level employees. And then, I promoted a few into area supervisors, and after they've learned and they've been through the grind, which is it doesn't take them long at all. They get it.
Yeah.
And Amy and Stacy and Gloria, and getting ready to promote Morgan. It's impressive. I would like to see a female in office. I'd like to see a female as president.
Yeah,
because they can juggle a hell of a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. That's interesting because, I mean, for me personally, I've had male bosses, I've had female bosses. I don't know what the percentage is. I don't from like a leadership standpoint. I guess for me, I've never really seen much of a difference. Like, I mean, what I'm saying? Like I've had really good male bosses. I've had really terrible male bosses
in
the same, but I guess the question is, in this day and age, do you think that there is still enough of a sexist sentiment in America that would that prevent? I don't know who's running next time, but if it's a female running next time, would that keep her in and of itself? The fact that she's female, Are there enough Americans that like think, no, I can't have a woman president?
I think, yes, I think there's a great a great percentage of Americans who believe that. Definitely there are.
Wow.
But I think for me, I mean, I would like to see the right female run for president, get way off here. But, Harris was just kind of thrown in there in the last minute.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. That was a shit show.
yeah, that was awful. And that
What,
opened a door,
well, it is,
for Trump to get back in. And I'm
it,
not,
it, it was almost like it was on purpose.
well, some people think that, and
Well, because there was no primary for that. Isn't that right? That because Biden was
there was no convention, there were no delegates.
Yeah, because he was the presumptive nominee,
and he backed out the last minute.
And he backed out last minute, appointed. Well, I don't know. Did he appoint her? Is that how that worked?
I'm sorry.
Did he appoint her?
Yeah. I mean, she was thrown in there to.
But she wasn't primaried. No, people didn't actually. So I wonder how like if you're a hardcore Democrat American, were you okay with that?
Many aren't, but I think the new generation coming up has a better understanding what they can do, and what. So, I mean, if
I just wonder what people like. Honestly, I try to vote. Because it's important. What we have in America is amazing.
It's very important.
And we America has so many flaws, but like I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But like I have found myself voting against people more than I've voted for people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like okay, I'll vote for candidate X. I'll hold my nose and vote for them just because I'm so scared of the other candidate. It's not that I really believe in the person I'm voting for. I'm just so damn scared that the other one is going to be worse. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, I mean, but that's reality. It's like, okay, I mean, again, thinking people like you are like, okay, who's the lesser of two evils, if you will? Is it this person or this person? And a lot of people, there are a lot of Americans who are still voting today. There's no way in the world they're going to vote for a female.
That's amazing.
It's amazing to me too.
And
look, I'm 70. So, I'm in that older generation, if you will. But I think the right female, like the right male, obviously could do a good job. I mean, I look at people like Kasich. Wow. I mean, what a well-rounded candidate he was. You find a female like a Kasich that can think out both sides of their brain. Well, I think they got a great chance today, more than ever.
But could someone like that really rise to the level of actually being able to run for a big office like that? Because it's just politics is so dirty now.
So far, no. You know what I mean?
That's terrifying.
Because, so far, no. That's.
I mean, just think of last time. It was Trump versus Biden. Obviously, at the last minute, Biden pulled out. But like, just think about that. How is it in America? You've got 300 million people. You've got all these smart people, all these amazing Americans that are smart, working their asses off.
Yep.
We have a great. I love this country, and that's who we have to choose from.
Right.
What?
Yeah. The loudest mouth in the arena.
I mean, like, how do you even what? And then, like you say, and then Harris was sort of thrown in there last minute. Wasn't primaried. Wasn't. Or I may not be saying that right, but wasn't voted in by Democrats nationwide that said, "Hey, we believe in this person." Maybe she still would have been. I don't know. No, I mean nobody knows. But
maybe she was great.
Yeah, but I mean,
she never got a chance to prove herself.
Oh man,
and debate against other Democrats who were up there. She was, if you will, I mean, at least Hillary Clinton was able to debate. You know what I mean? At least she was able to debate with Trump. At least there was some debate. I mean, with Harris, there was nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was her fault. I think it was the fact that, again, like you said, I mean, Biden got out.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
you know, at the last minute, and
yeah.
hey, guess what? You're the VP. There you go. You got it.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, like there's an old saying amongst trained debaters, like people that have been trained to debate. Well, I don't know. I've never been trained to debate,
Yeah,
but like they say, never debate an amateur because you'll always lose because they don't play by the same rules. And
yeah,
I heard an analysis of Trump when he was running in, was it 2016? I guess the first time
yep.
he came in like like a complete outlier, like an amateur. He wasn't
That's right.
playing by their rules, and he just shook up the whole system.
That's right.
Like love him or hate him. I mean, people either pretty much love him or hate him, but he came in, and interestingly,
It came down that elevator. The first shot was him coming down that elevator.
yeah,
And instead of really having a hard debate like Reagan or Bush, you know, his answer was, you know, well, they're weak or, you know, they're this or that or the other.
yeah, sorry,
He name called
yeah, he was
people.
like he was in elementary school.
But people were like, yeah, but people, there were a lot of people who liked that. Boy, he's a business owner, so he must know a lot. Well, yes, you know what? There is something to his madness because he's had to build buildings in New York City, which you can imagine what he's had to go through with permitting and contractors and inspectors. But he also had a lot of money to start with. You know, he does bring, you know, that I think that's why he is such a harsh person,
Yeah.
if you will.
Well,
I mean, it was like, you know, when you looked at Reagan debate, Mondale, you know, would not let, you know, his immaturity, and I'm not quoting this correctly, you know, I would not hold his immaturity against him, meaning, you know, he was so much younger than Reagan.
Yeah.
Because he was.
Yeah.
But he
Well,
made a joke out of it. He didn't just respect
yeah.
Mondale.
Well, even I saw a clip of Obama and Mitt Romney in one of their debates, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Holy shit!" I mean, like,
Yeah.
wow, it was like it was basically a whole bunch of like, well, I respectfully disagree with the senator from so and so, and like, well,
Yeah.
you know what? I respectfully disagree with
Because he was respectful.
yeah, exactly. And when Trump, and here's what,
He wasn't calling people low energy or,
oh no,
you know.
I mean, and here's what I'm so scared of right now personally, and it's just crazy that we're here. Trump, this is not my analysis. I heard a very smart interview about this. I forget who it was. It was a political like commentator, and he was like, "Look, don't forget the reason Trump won the nomination in 2016 is because he was the first guy to come out when he was running for the Republican nomination. He's the first guy to come out against Jeb Bush and say, well." Your brother lied us into 2 wars.
Sure.
Nobody on either side had said that before,
Yeah.
right? And I personally, I could be wrong about this. I personally think that's why, because he was like the anti-war, anti-establishment, but especially anti-war candidate. So that's how he even got into this game, because I don't think he would have made it if he didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then here we are now bombing the shit out of Iran.
Yep, that's right.
And I'm like, what are we doing?
And there was a reason that other presidents in the past have not bombed Iran, because they knew what it would do to our economy.
Yeah.
They understood that.
Yeah.
They understood the strait and how we had to let ships go through there. They understood the power that Iran has.
Yes.
And you talk about critical thinking skills. I mean, past presidents have had to have that in order to make, you know, to understand, well, you know, I can go over there and start all the crap I want with Iran, and I can mix it up with them all day, you know, and, you know, probably we need to do that. But the problem is, you see the problem. And the other thing too is, yes, those people over there are beat down, the citizens there are beat down the whole 9 yards. But if you're going to bomb Iran, if you're going to get in a war with Iran, you got to finish it.
Yeah.
You can't give them 15 chances to, well, you know, we're going to stop bombing, see what they can do. We're going to try to make an agreement, because there is no agreement.
No.
those folks understand one thing, and that is power.
Yeah.
They don't understand giving second chances and third and fourth and fifth. And when you start giving them second or third chances, they know, hey, this guy's an empty suit.
Yeah. Well, and there's no, I mean, they also know, they know the harsh reality, like that we can't. There's no, we're not going to roll through there like we rolled through Afghanistan
Yeah.
or Iraq. It's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I wouldn't have believed this if I didn't hear it for myself. But you remember when Joe Kent resigned?
Yes.
He was the deputy director of national counterintelligence or something. He was right below Tulsi Gabbard, right? Very smart guy.
Yep.
Combat veteran, special forces. He's like Mr. America, right? Did you hear he went on like the podcast circuit? He literally, and I went through and watched it myself. He literally said that he believes that the assassination attempts on Trump were connected to him being pressured to start war with Iran. Did you hear him say that?
I did not. No.
I wouldn't. It's not speculation. That's what he said.
Yeah. No, I believe it. Yeah.
That blows my mind. To think that, because some people say, well, the assassination attempt was faked. They say like he cut his own ear. I don't know. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But according to the guy,
but his ear grew back pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was weird. But like I mean, for a guy like that to suggest that it was pressure, like, hey, you know what, you're going to do this, and if you don't, we can easily take care of you.
It's like General Petraeus has got some great subject matter on this, and I don't want to quote him because I'm really not. I really couldn't, but he's got some different beliefs as well. And Petraeus was pretty strong general.
Yeah.
But he knows, and hey, look, man, I don't know everything. I'm just going by what I've read and heard and researched. If you're gonna go to work with the war with Iran, those folks only know one thing, and that is, if you got a lot of power and you're going to use it, you got to use it, because they don't know anything else other than power, and they don't mind getting in a fight, and they'll get in a fight with you for the next 10 years if you let them. It could be another Vietnam.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Afghanistan. We were there, 20 years, and Iran has already demonstrated that they understand modern warfare seemingly better than we do.
Oh,
they're flying, what, like $70,000 drones or something packed with explosives, and we're shooting them down with multi-million-dollar missiles. It's like that, just like what you're saying in the restaurant business, that doesn't work. Those numbers don't work.
The other thing there, which I've heard on Michael Shimakanis, which I love because he's right in the middle, is on his talk show. He had a gentleman on, I can't remember his name, but they also understand we're just about out of weapons.
Yes, that was leaked recently.
And I don't know if it's true or not, because I'm not the expert. We could have plenty of them. Last I heard, we had what a big stockpile. I don't know, but again, that's not my. I like to read about it. That's not my forte, but I can tell you what I've read and I've heard and listened to both sides of the story. And, I don't know. I mean, to me, giving them second, third, and fourth chances, they start to read that and say, this guy's not going to do anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're doomed from the start because no, very, very, very few people that I know personally, and all the reading and interviews that I've seen, the majority of America does not want this to begin with.
No.
So America is like, what the fuck are we doing? And meanwhile, if you live in Iran, as far as you're concerned, because our president he has flippantly said he might just wipe them off the face of the earth.
Sure.
So our mindset is like, wait a minute, what the fuck are we doing? We shouldn't do this to begin with. Their mindset is, we're fighting for our existence.
Yeah, and they know he's not going to do anything.
Well, we hope he's not going to do anything.
Well,
I,
you
don't-
know,
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Oh my
Obviously,
God.
I just wonder if the generals are keeping the bombs away from Trump, because he is scorching the earth right now. Because I believe, and I've not heard anybody say this. So again, I'm not the expert. Don't come bomb my house or anything like that. But he is, in my opinion, he's mad because he lost 2020. And so he got back in and he doesn't care what happens. I just don't think he cares. I think for him, I'm mad at everybody, including Americans that didn't vote for me. I don't care if gas prices are $20 a gallon. We're going
Mm.
to, I'm just going to scorch the earth. And again, that's my opinion. I've never heard that from anybody else. So that's only my opinion.
Yeah.
And I could be totally wrong.
Well, I think, whether it's COVID or Iran or any of the other things that we could talk about, like I feel like the problem and probably also the solution, the problem is tribalism
Yeah.
amongst Americans.
Yeah.
And the solution is for us to collectively wake up and realize, hey, those politicians don't give a shit about us.
No.
I don't care. Like, if you love Trump, if you hate Trump, if you loved Biden or whatever, I think people need to wake up and realize they didn't love you back.
No, they don't.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They're
They
all
don't care
rich.
about you.
Yes,
They don't care what you're paying for gas.
Exactly. They're all rich. They're all set. They all have bunkers.
You don't have to worry about any of those folks as far as health care, because you look at Mitch McConnell, whether he's alive or dead, he's probably got the best health care of anybody.
Yes.
While the average American is trying to save enough money to go to the dentist every 6 months.
Yes.
And those folks up there in Washington, that's why they stay there forever, because they got a great gig. I got health care, man. I've got this. I'm making money out of these people.
Insider trading, you name it.
Yeah, to go into office and make $250,000 a year and walk out with $92 million.
Yes.
Like McConnell. Okay, you weren't that great of a saver.
He's just a good investor, Bill.
Yeah,
he just understands the market. It's buy low, sell high.
Every time that market goes up and down, it's because of something that the president said, like Trump, and his family's making a ton of money out of that.
Oh,
okay, yeah,
yes.
Let's go ahead and buy oil now. Let's short sell it. Let's do this. And so, that is, yeah, I mean, President Trump may not be making a dime right now personally, but his family is making a ton of money.
Oh, well, they've already proven it. His daughter was giving an interview about how they were sailing on a yacht, and it turns out to be one of the Rothschilds' yachts.
Yeah.
And they saw this private island that they just had to have.
Yeah.
Really?
All these folks are
really
making,
you
on
saw
both sides of the
yes,
aisle.
that's the thing.
They are making a ton of money.
Yes, it's
there,
like
that $250,000, whatever they make a year, has turned into millions of dollars a year.
It's ridiculous. And it's both sides. Like Trump right now. Okay, fine. He is in your face with it. It's super obvious, but it's not. But it's everybody up there.
Everybody.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's
it's both parties.
Yes.
That's why they stay there till they drop dead.
Yes.
You have to carry them out on a gurney.
Yes.
And that's the way it is. It's like, hey, I got a great gig here. Why in the world do I want to give that up?
Exactly.
Let me keep running every year, and let me keep making people feel good because they believe this or that. And whether you like Trump or not, the one thing you have to agree with is he loves a divided nation.
Yes.
That's where his forte is. Divide people, and that's where it is. And I think probably all politicians on both sides are probably pretty close to that.
Oh yeah, some hide it better, some are more polished.
Yeah. They're all polished because they've grown up, they've had a debate, they've had to do this, they've all gone to Ivy League schools. I mean,
yeah.
So
no. And meanwhile, most Americans don't have health care.
They don't have health care.
Meanwhile, it just blows my mind, and I guess because I've thought about this so much, and I guess it just comes down to like what is going to wake people up. I mean, of course, we need to have multiple parties. No one's going to agree on things, and that's healthy and that's good.
Absolutely.
But like right now, we're so the tribalism has reached like a fever pitch
Yeah.
where I feel like most Americans can't really just see through it.
It's very sad. For me, I can vote for somebody and still find humor in what they were doing.
100%.
You know? And it's kind of like some people, if you have any humor toward, and again, I'm trying to find the humor in everything, but you make fun of their party, oh man, it's bad. And they just they can't believe that you'd make fun of Trump or Biden or
Yeah.
Harris, and it's like, hey, dude, I mean, they're not my boyfriend.
Yeah.
I voted for them. I don't have a picture of them up on the wall. I don't worship them every morning. I voted for them, but you know what? They suck in this area, or they're doing a good job in this area. And
Yeah.
the thing about Trump is he's probably doing a good job in some areas, but the problem is his believability.
Yeah.
Because, that one newscaster said, President Trump, I think, to date you've told 32,000 lies. And what do you think is your number one lie? And he said, yep. He goes, I've never told a lie. And the newscaster goes, yep, I think that is your number one.
Well, with Trump especially, I feel like his first term, a lot of people, even if they didn't like him, they thought, well, the economy did do pretty good. And we weren't bombing people. Well, I mean, I'm sure we probably still were a little bit because we just can't seem to stop doing that. But his second term is like bipolar.
He's definitely different than he was the first term.
And I think that's, I don't know what changed. Maybe this is what he wanted to do the whole time. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I don't have a clue, and it's definitely a different term. You always question, why does he say that? We all know it's a lie. He calls people, news folks, low information, or whatever he calls them, or he makes fun of the news. No other president's ever done that. Newscasters, when they've asked them questions
it's unheard
in the
of.
press.
Yeah.
I mean, no, we've never had a president that's never been disrespectful to someone in the press.
Yeah.
Freedom of the press obviously is one of the foundations America's built on. And you look at Reagan, you look at Bush, you look at Obama, they were able to handle the press. But him is like, I mean, it's embarrassing what he calls people from CNN or CNBC.
Yeah. But here's the other, I completely agree, because when I see it, I'm just kind of like, sometimes I'm just blown away. I'm like, wow, he actually said that. But here's the other side of that, though. I mean, when we got to bring up, I got to bring up COVID again, but like, there were so many people when COVID was happening that knew they were being lied to by those same the same media outlets that Trump, rails on and humiliates and makes fun of.
Right.
I don't agree with that, but on the same token, millions and millions and millions of people were sitting at home during COVID, scared to death, knowing they were getting lied to. But there was this social, there was this like hive mindset that if you didn't agree with that, you were like getting banned from social media, you were getting shamed, you were being told, that you were killing people, and if you didn't do this, or you didn't wear a mask, you didn't get vaccinated or whatever, and people were like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. The experts are saying something different, but then the government is saying, does that make sense? And so there was like, people knew they were being lied to, but they were told to shut up about it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so like, I think that probably maybe even gave rise to him getting reelected. Maybe.
I mean, it could have been. I mean, it's.
I'm not saying he's handling it well, but like.
No, I know.
There's. What do you do about that part of it? I don't.
I don't know.
I wish I knew.
It's news reporters have thrown hard questions to the presidents for decades. And, again, Reagan, Bush, Obama have always been able to handle them.
Yeah.
But you throw him something that's hard, and he said, he calls them, well, CNN is nothing but liars, and this and that and the other, or hey, low information, or and it's like,
Yeah.
and there are people who just cheer that. I'm like, we never had a president try to control the press like he does. Even like 60 Minutes. People will leave in 60 Minutes. I listen to 60 Minutes every week on my podcast. They typically talk about butterflies over Northwest, or, typically it's not politics.
Yeah.
But, so many people, if you go on Newsbreak, which I love, I mean, I don't hardly ever read the stories on Newsbreak. I really look at the comments, and they just agree with all of that. But they got no reason. And I'll say, well, tell me when they lied. Tell me this. No one never get any answer.
Yeah.
And or they're calling me a Democrat, or
Yeah.
a liberal. Well, I'm not one. I got no side, but why would you say that? Obviously, you don't listen to 60 Minutes, or you secretly listen to 60 Minutes, and you don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I listen to 60 Minutes, I'm listening to stories about someone with autism, or someone who's made it here, or again, butterflies over in Asia, or, those kind of things. I'm not, they very seldom have a political view on anything, and very seldom do they have a political story, really.
Yeah.
It's a shame because, I mean, Trump's trying to control the press, and ban this, and they ought to fire this guy and put pressure on these news stations to let people go. And
Yeah.
I mean, you never saw that out of Bush.
That's
You
not,
you never saw that out of Reagan. You never saw that out of Clinton.
that's
And
not
God knows,
good.
I mean, nobody handled harder questions than Clinton did back in the day, and rightfully so. I get it.
Who wasn't he the last president to actually balance the budget?
He was, absolutely.
There's a novel idea.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, I mean, he was. And, people could say, well, it's because of this or that. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter what it's because, but he was in office.
Yeah.
And, that's where presidents get their credibility.
Yeah.
That's where, they can claim victory. It doesn't matter that this was happening, or this or that. I was in office. They were in office. They balanced the budget. He was the last president to balance the budget.
Wow, that's terrifying, because it's been a long time since he was president.
Yeah.
So nobody's done that since.
I mean, in spite of his flaws, he very smart person.
Wow.
And again, you look at a guy, he was in his 40s, not his 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, he could
Yeah.
stand up. He had the energy. There's a big difference between Biden and Trump and Bush.
Yeah.
Bush too. And, those folks who were in their 60s or 50s, Clinton in his 40s, that had the energy to do that job. And I'm not shaming anybody for losing energy in their older years, but I will say, if you're running for office, man, that's a tough deal.
It's a
And
marathon.
if you look at Trump, I mean, he's up half the night on social media. And I mean, like,
Trolling people.
who does that? I mean, who does that?
Yeah. Oh wow. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, I've had a lot of fun, Rusty.
Man, thank you so much.
It's been a great time.
We
Yeah,
gotta do this.
absolutely.
We gotta do this
And I'm not
again.
saying I'm right on the politics part. I mean, I just listen and
Oh,
I
no,
study. Doesn't mean I'm not
absolutely.
an expert, so
Well,
please, everybody understand, I'm no expert.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk to you about this stuff, because I feel like that's, as silly as it sounds, I feel like that's one of the ways that we save our country is by people like just relearning that, hey, we can sit down and talk about this stuff. We can disagree. We can ask questions, and we're not married to our politicians, because they sure as hell aren't married to us.
No, that's right. I mean, they would dump us in a second.
Exactly. I mean, I'm last time I checked, I'm not getting filthy rich by being in office, or by voting for people, but they are.
I still worry about my health care, my kids' health care, my wife's health care, and
exactly. I mean, last I checked, I work multiple jobs to pay my bills.
Yeah.
and they are buying private islands. So that
Absolutely,
know,
I'm not flying around on,
yes.
on this or that, or I don't have a yacht, or
Yeah. So
I'm the average American. I'm like you. It's till I got in the restaurant business, I worked 2 jobs.
yeah,
I worked at a liquor store during the night, and I worked at the bank during the day.
yeah,
And that's when I first got out of school. But once I became a restaurant manager, there was 70 hours a week. I was not
yeah.
going to be doing that.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
plus, I was making a whopping $218.50 a week. That was back in '79, so that was big money.
Big money.
But
Big money. Well, all right. Well, dude, this is great.
hey,
This
man,
was
I've
great.
enjoyed it.
We got to do it again.
Yeah,
I love it.
absolutely.
I hope everything recorded.
Well, if it's smart, you probably took me out of it. So.